There is a moment inside every grocery store that almost nobody notices anymore. It happens about 10 feet past the automatic doors, where the produce mist hisses on a 30-second timer and the cold hits the back of your throat before your eyes adjust to the fluorescent green of stacked romaine. Maybe you smell the cut ends of celery, that slightly bitter, watery snap. Maybe it is the bruised sweetness of a cantaloupe somebody dropped in aisle 1, or the iron tang drifting from the seafood counter. For most of us, that smell is the smell of obligation. We push the cart forward, grab the same 8 or 10 things we always grab, and we tell ourselves we are eating well because there is something leafy in the basket. But here is the disruption. The food in your cart is not the same food your grandparents pulled out of their bags 50 years ago. Soil mineral content has dropped, varieties have been bred for shelf life over nutrient density, and the average American grocery basket today contains, by weight, more refined oil and refined flour than fresh plant matter. So the question is not whether you are eating. The question is whether what you are eating is actually feeding you. This matters more than people want to admit, and it matters more than any supplement bottle on any shelf. The 2024 Global Burden of Disease Analysis, published in The Lancet, identified poor diet as a leading modifiable risk factor for premature mortality worldwide, ahead of physical inactivity and on par with tobacco in some age brackets. The American Heart Association in early 2025 reaffirmed that dietary patterns, not isolated nutrients, drive long-term cardiovascular outcomes. You cannot capsule your way out of a bad plate. You cannot powder your way past ultra-processed convenience. The food itself, in its whole and recognizable form, carries a matrix of fiber, polyphenols, fats, and micronutrients that no laboratory has ever fully replicated. When you spend money on a multivitamin, you are buying a fragment. When you spend money on a real food, you are buying the whole symphony. People hear the phrase, healthy food, and they picture a sad bowl of iceberg lettuce, a rice cake, a tub of fat-free yogurt with a green leaf on the label. That is not healthy food. That is marketing food. Truly nutrient-dense food is often heavy, often inconvenient, often slightly intimidating in its raw form, and almost always cheaper per gram of nutrition than the boxed stuff promising the same benefits. It looks like a whole cabbage, not a coleslaw kit. It looks like a tin of sardines, not an omega-3 gummy. It looks like a sweet potato with dirt still on it, not a chip made from the same vegetable and fried in seed oil. The reframe is simple. Stop asking whether a food is what? Healthy. Start asking what it actually does inside your body and whether the evidence supports that, which is exactly why I built this list. 30 foods. Each one earned its spot through documented research, regulatory, recognition, or generations of traditional use backed by modern science. No fluff items, no filler, just things you can put in a cart this week. If a food on this list surprises you or you already eat it daily, drop the number in the comments. I read them. We start with the leafy greens because nothing else delivers more nutrition per calorie. Number 1 is kale. The dark green curly leaves carry an unusual concentration of vitamin K1, with a single cooked cup providing well over the daily reference intake according to the USDA Food Data Central Database. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition has linked higher vitamin K1 intake with improved arterial elasticity in older adults. Kale also delivers sulforaphane precursors when chopped and rested before cooking. Buy it whole, not pre-bagged, because the cut surfaces oxidize fast. Massage raw leaves with olive oil and a pinch of salt for 10 minutes, and the bitterness softens into something almost sweet. Number 2 is spinach. Often dismissed as the kale alternative, spinach actually outperforms. In folate and magnesium, two nutrients the NHANES surveys consistently show Americans underconsume. A 2024 meta-analysis in the British Journal of Nutrition associated regular leafy green intake with measurable reductions in markers of systemic inflammation. Buy fresh bunches when you can, frozen when you cannot, since flash frozen spinach retains nearly all its folate. Wilt a handful into eggs, blend into smoothies, fold into pasta water in the last 30 seconds. Number 3 is Swiss chard. The rainbow stems are not just pretty, they contain betalains, the same pigment family that gives beets their color, and research suggests these compounds may support antioxidant defense systems. 1 cup of cooked chard provides substantial magnesium, potassium, and vitamin A. Sauté the stems first, then add the leaves. Finish with lemon and garlic. Number 4 is arugula. Peppery, fast-growing, and quietly one of the highest sources of dietary nitrates among common greens. The 2025 European Journal of Clinical Nutrition published findings associating dietary nitrate intake with improved exercise tolerance and modest blood pressure reductions. Buy it loose, eat it within 4 days, throw it on top of pizza after the oven instead of before. Now the cruciferous family, which deserves its own corner of the cart. Number 5 is broccoli. The compound to know is sulforaphane, formed when you chop or chew the florets, and the enzyme myrosinase activates the precursor glucoraphanin. NIH-funded research at Johns Hopkins has spent decades documenting sulforaphane's role in supporting the body's natural detoxification pathways. Steam lightly, do not boil to mush, and let it sit for 40 minutes after chopping if you want maximum sulforaphane. Number 6 is Brussels sprouts. Same family, same compounds. Denser leaf structure means more glucosinolates per bite. Roast them whole at high heat with olive oil until the outer leaves crisp and the centers turn buttery. The 2024 USDA Dietary Guidelines specifically named cruciferous vegetables as a category Americans should increase, citing their fiber and phytochemical profile. Number 7 is cabbage, the most underrated vegetable in the produce section. Pound for pound, cabbage delivers vitamin C, vitamin K, fiber, and the same glucosinolate compounds as its flashier cousins at roughly 1/3 the price. Studies have linked regular cabbage consumption with improved gut microbiome diversity, particularly when consumed fermented. Slice thin, salt, let it weep, and you have the start of a slaw or sauerkraut. Number 8 is cauliflower. Beyond its role as the rice substitute of the decade, cauliflower contains choline, a nutrient the National Academies recently flagged as underconsumed in the American diet. Choline supports liver function and neurotransmitter synthesis. Roast it whole. The browned exterior turns nutty and the center stays tender. Number 9 is bok choy. A different cruciferous, more delicate, with a higher water content and a faster cook time. It carries glucosinolates, calcium, and vitamin A, and a 2025 Asian Journal of Clinical Nutrition study associated regular leafy crucifer intake with favorable bone density markers in postmenopausal women. Split it down the middle, sear cut side down, finish with sesame oil. Now to the roots, which most people forget, exist beyond potatoes. Number 10 is the sweet potato. Beta-carotene density that rivals carrots, slow-burning carbohydrates, and a respectable dose of potassium. The orange variety carries the most provitamin A, the purple. Varieties carry anthocyanins linked in research to vascular health support. Bake whole at 400 degrees until the sugars caramelize through the skin. Eat the skin too. That is where most of the fiber lives. Number 11 is the carrot. Boring, cheap, and absurdly nutritious when eaten with a little fat to unlock the carotenoids. The 2024 American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published a cohort analysis associating higher carotenoid intake with improved cognitive function scores in adults over 60. Buy them with the tops on if you can. The greens are edible and pesto-able. Number 12 is the beet. Earthy, sweet, and a leading dietary source of betalains and nitrates. Research from the journal Nitric Oxide has consistently associated beet consumption with improved blood flow markers and exercise capacity. Roast whole in foil for an hour, slip the skins off under cold water, slice over goat cheese. Number 13 is the radish. Often treated as a garnish, but radishes belong to the cruciferous family and carry their own glucosinolate profile. Quick fermentation turns them into something probiotic. Slice them raw onto buttered toast with sea salt. Trust me on that one. Now the alliums, which protect the entire dish they enter. Number 14 is garlic. The compound is allicin, formed when you crush a clove and let it rest for 10 minutes before heat. Studies in the Journal of Nutrition have associated regular garlic consumption with modest improvements in blood lipid profiles. Buy whole heads, never the pre-minced jar, because the volatile compounds degrade within hours of crushing. Number 15 is the onion. Quercetin, the flavonoid most associated with anti-inflammatory research, lives in onion skins and the outer flesh. Red and yellow varieties carry the most. The 2025 Nutrients Journal published a review associating quercetin-rich diets with cardiovascular biomarker improvements. Caramelize them slowly. The transformation from sharp to sweet is one of the great free magic tricks of cooking. Number 16 is the leek, milder cousin of the onion, with the same sulfur compounds and a higher prebiotic fiber content. Leeks feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut. Slice the white and light green parts, rinse thoroughly because grit hides in the layers, and braise them in butter until silky. Now the fruits and berries, which carry the densest concentrations of polyphenols you can eat. Number 17 is the blueberry. The anthocyanins responsible for the deep blue color have been studied extensively at Tufts University and elsewhere for their association with cognitive function support in aging adults. A 2024 paper in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition associated daily blueberry intake with measurable improvements in memory test performance over 12 weeks. Frozen wild blueberries actually carry higher anthocyanin density than fresh cultivated ones, and they cost less. Throw a handful into oatmeal. Number 18 is the strawberry. High in vitamin C, ellagic acid, and a unique class of polyphenols called pelargonidins. Buy them in season when possible, organic when affordable, since strawberries consistently top the Environmental Working Group's pesticide residue lists. Eat them whole, hulls and all, if the texture does not bother you. Number 19 is the raspberry. Fiber content that rivals beans on a per-cup basis, plus L-gitannins that gut bacteria convert into urolithins, compounds being investigated for cellular health support. Frozen works perfectly for smoothies. Fresh works best on a spoon, with nothing on them. Number 20 is the pomegranate. The Arils carry punicalagins, a class of polyphenols that has been the subject of dozens of clinical trials over the past decade looking at cardiovascular markers. Buy whole fruits, not juice, because the juice loses much of the original polyphenol matrix during processing. Whack the bottom of a halved pomegranate with a wooden spoon over a bowl. The seeds rain out. Number 21 is the apple. Old-fashioned, unglamorous, and carrying pectin, quercetin, and a fiber profile that feeds gut bacteria in ways processed snacks cannot. The 2024 BMJ published a long-term cohort analysis associating regular apple consumption with reduced all-cause mortality, even after adjusting for other lifestyle factors. Eat the skin. Buy the ugly heritage varieties when you can find them. Now to the fats and the seeds, which is where most modern diets fall apart. Number 22 is the walnut, the only common nut with a meaningful concentration of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids. The 2025 Journal of the American College of Cardiology published a randomized trial associating daily walnut intake with improved lipid markers in adults at elevated cardiovascular risk. Store them in the fridge or freezer because the delicate fats oxidize fast. A small handful a day, not a bag. Number 23 is the chia seed. Soaks up liquid, gels into pudding, and delivers fiber, plant, omega-3s, and a slow drip of carbohydrate. Mix 2 tablespoons into yogurt the night before. Wake up to breakfast. Number 24 is the flaxseed. Lignans, fiber, and another source of plant omega-3s. The catch is, they need to be ground to be absorbed. Buy whole flaxseed. Grind a week's worth in a coffee grinder. Store the meal in the freezer. Sprinkle on everything. Now the fermented section, which keeps the rest of you working properly. Number 25 is sauerkraut. Real fermented sauerkraut, refrigerated, unpasteurized, with live cultures listed on the jar. The pasteurized shelf-stable version is just sour cabbage. The live version delivers lactobacillus strains that research has linked to improved gut microbiome diversity. 2 forkfuls with a meal, not a bowl. The point is the bacteria, not the volume. Number 26 is kefir, a fermented milk drink with a more diverse microbial profile than yogurt, often containing 10 or more live strains. The 2024 journal Frontiers in Microbiology published a review associating kefir consumption with favorable shifts in gut bacterial populations. Buy plain, full fat, and add your own fruit if you want sweetness. Now the proteins, where quality matters more than quantity. Number 27 is the sardine. Small, oily, eaten whole with bones, which means calcium, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, and a low position on the food chain that minimizes mercury accumulation. The FDA and EPA jointly list sardines among the lowest mercury fish choices for regular consumption. Buy them tinned in olive oil or water. Eat them on toast with mustard and a squeeze of lemon. I know. Just try it once. I want to dwell here because this is the food I most wish I had started eating earlier. I started keeping a few tins of sardines in the pantry about 2 years ago, mostly out of guilt for never finishing the salmon I bought with such good intentions. The first tin sat there for months. Then, one weeknight, exhausted, I cracked one open, dumped it onto sourdough with butter and lemon, and ate it standing at the counter. It was salty, oily, surprisingly clean tasting, and it filled me up the way no salad ever has. 3 weeks later, I noticed I was sleeping better. Whether that was the omega-3s, the vitamin D, the protein, or simply the fact that I was eating an actual evening meal instead of grazing on crackers, I cannot prove. But the tins kept disappearing. They still do. The 2025 American Heart Association advisory specifically called out small, fatty fish as one of the highest quality protein sources for cardiovascular support, citing both the nutrient density and the lower environmental burden compared to larger fish. If the texture intimidates you, mash them with a fork into yogurt and lemon and herbs. You will not taste the fish. You will taste a brightness you cannot quite place. That is the food working. Number 28 is the pasture-raised egg. The yolk carries choline, lutein, zeaxanthin, vitamin D, and a complete amino acid profile. Pasture-raised, when verified by a third-party certification like Certified Humane or American Humane Certified, indicates the hens had outdoor access and a more varied diet, which, research has shown, produces eggs with higher omega-3 and vitamin D content compared to conventional. 2 eggs, soft, scrambled in butter, salt, eaten slowly. Number 29 is grass-fed beef liver. Yes, liver, the most nutrient-dense food in the entire animal kingdom by most measures, providing vitamin A, B12, copper, iron, and folate in concentrations no other food matches. Traditional cultures prized it. Modern eaters fled from it. If the flavor is too much, soak it in milk for an hour, slice it thin, dredge it in flour, and pan-fry it in butter with onions until just pink in the middle. Once a week is plenty. Buy from a source you trust. Number 30 is extra virgin olive oil, the cornerstone of every dietary pattern that has ever shown long-term cardiovascular benefit in randomized trials, including the landmark PRIDIMED study and its 2024 follow-up analyses. The polyphenols in real extra virgin olive oil, particularly oleocanthal, have been studied for their association with anti-inflammatory pathways. The catch is most supermarket olive oil is not what it claims to be. Look for a harvest date on the bottle, a single country of origin, dark glass, and a peppery bite at the back of your throat when you taste it neat. That bite is the polyphenols. Use it generously on salads, on finished vegetables, on bread. Use a cheaper neutral oil for high-heat cooking and save the good stuff for the moments it can shine. Before we move into how to actually find these in stores, if this list has been useful, the subscribe button helps the channel reach more people who are tired of being sold supplements they do not need. Even the best food cannot outwork a sedentary day, a chronically stressed nervous system, or 4 hours of broken sleep. I want to be honest about that. The list is not magic. You can eat all 30 of these foods every week and still feel terrible if you are not sleeping, not moving, not connecting with other humans. But food is the foundation everything else gets built on. Skip it, and the rest collapses, no matter how disciplined you are about the other levers. Now the verification piece, because a list is only useful if you know how to spot the real version of each item in a real store. Most of the foods on this list are unprocessed enough that the verification is visual. A sweet potato is a sweet potato. A bunch of kale is a bunch of kale. The variables are freshness, sourcing, and certification, and those are where shoppers get fooled. For produce, the simple rule is firm, heavy for its size, and vibrant in color. Limp greens, soft roots, and dull skins indicate either age or poor storage. The USDA Organic Seal is the most rigorous, widely available certification. In the United States, and for the foods on the Environmental Working Group's annual Dirty Dozen list, it is worth the upcharge when budget allows. Strawberries, spinach, kale, and apples consistently appear on that list. For other items, conventional is generally fine, and the cost savings can be redirected to other categories. For animal products, the relevant certifications are Certified Humane, American Humane Certified, Animal Welfare Approved, and for grass-fed beef, the American Grass-Fed Association Seal. These are not marketing words on a carton. They are third-party audited standards. Words like natural, farm fresh, and cage-free without a certification behind them mean almost nothing. Cage-free, in particular, can describe a barn with 30,000 birds and no outdoor access. For olive oil, the verification is harder because the industry is famously prone to adulteration. Look for a harvest date within the past 18 months, a single country or a state of origin, dark glass packaging, and either the COOC seal in California or the equivalent European DOP or PDO designations. If the bottle is clear, on a hot shelf, and labeled simply product of multiple countries, the contents may be diluted or rancid before you ever open it. For fermented foods, look for the words live cultures or unpasteurized. Find them in the refrigerated section and check the ingredient list for nothing more than the vegetable, water, and salt. Vinegar in the ingredients means it is pickled, not fermented, and the bacteria you are paying for are not present. For fish, the FDA and EPA jointly publish updated mercury and sustainability guidance, and for tinned sardines, anchovies, and mackerel, the Marine Stewardship Council Blue Label indicates verified sustainable sourcing. Now the integration question, because owning 30 foods means nothing if they sit in your fridge wilting. The mistake most people make is trying to overhaul everything in a single shop. They come home with kale and chard and 3 kinds of berries and a tin of sardines, eat well for 4 days, then watch the rest decompose and quietly conclude that healthy eating is too expensive. It is not too expensive. It is too ambitious in week 1. Start with 5. Pick 5 foods from the 30 that you do not currently eat regularly. Write them on a sticky note and put them on your fridge. The next time you shop, those 5 go in the cart. Everything else stays the same. Once those 5 are showing up in your meals reliably, add 3 more the following month. Within a season, you will have integrated 15 new foods without ever feeling like you are on a diet. The second integration trick is to pair new foods with anchors you already cook. If you already make pasta on Tuesdays, that is the night you wilt spinach into the sauce. If you already eat eggs on weekends, that is when the sardines or the liver get tested. Attaching new behavior to existing behavior is the single most reliable strategy in habit research. The third trick is to treat the freezer and the pantry as your safety net. Frozen wild blueberries, frozen spinach, tinned sardines, frozen wild salmon, dried lentils, jars of sauerkraut. These foods do not wilt, they wait. On the days you have no energy to chop a fresh head of cabbage, you crack a tin and a frozen bag, and you still eat well. The fourth trick is to stop separating snacks from meals in your head. A handful of walnuts and an apple is a meal. 2 soft-boiled eggs and a tomato is a meal. The cultural pressure to produce a plated dinner with 3 components every night is the reason most weeknight cooking ends in takeout. 5 of these foods on a cutting board, eaten with your fingers, counts. And the 5th trick is to build a mental short list of your 3 or 4 highest leverage foods for your particular life. For someone who sits at a desk and rarely moves, that might be leafy greens for nitrates, walnuts for omega-3s, and beets for vascular support. For someone who trains hard, it might be sweet potatoes, eggs, sardines, and spinach. The list of 30 is a menu, not a checklist. You do not need every item every week. You need the right items for you, on rotation, for years. Cost is the question I get more than any other, so let me address it directly. The list above can be eaten on almost any budget if you shift the ratio. Lentils, cabbage, sweet potatoes, eggs, frozen spinach, frozen berries, sardines, and old-fashioned oats are among the cheapest calories per nutrient in the entire grocery store. A pound of lentils costs less than a single fast food meal and feeds a family for 2 dinners. A dozen pasture-raised eggs costs less than a tub of protein powder. The premium foods on the list, the wild salmon, the grass-fed liver, the high-end olive oil, can rotate in occasionally without breaking a budget if the staples carry the weekly load. Open your fridge tonight, before you sleep, and count how many of these 30 foods are actually in there. Not in your intentions, not in the article you saved last month. In the fridge, right now. Then write down 3 from this list that are not there. Just 3. Put them on the fridge door on a sticky note where you cannot avoid seeing them. Those 3 go in the cart on your next shop. That is the entire assignment. Not a meal plan, not a cleanse. 3 foods, written down, bought, eaten. Do that this week, and the next week swap in 3 more. And within a month, your basket will look like a different person's basket. The food you put in the cart on a Tuesday afternoon is the food that becomes you, cell by cell, over the following decades. It is the most quietly powerful decision you make, and almost nobody gives it the weight it deserves. Give it the weight. Walk to the kitchen now. Open the door. Count.